ادريس توفيق. If you had 2 hours for a program, I could tell you about my story for Islam. Very simply, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. For 20 years I was in the church, in the Roman Catholic Church. I belonged to a Roman Catholic religious order, and then I trained in Rome in the Vatican to be a priest. And then after some time I left the priesthood, and again sometime after that I embraced Islam. But the story of my journey to Islam is very interesting. So I won't give you the story, but I'll tell you something that's important about the story. Before I was Muslim, I knew nothing about Muslims at all. I had never met a Muslim in my life. All I knew about Muslims was what the television told me about Muslims. That they chop your hands off, that they blow themselves up, and that they hit ladies. That's what I knew about Islam. And my introduction to Islam came not from reading a book. It didn't come from reading Holy Quran, or from listening to some great sheikh give a talk, or even watching an Islamic television channel. The first Muslim I ever met in my life was a little boy in the street cleaning shoes here in Cairo. And this little boy saw my white skin, and he looked at me and he said, "Assalamu alaikum." That was my first introduction to Islam. A little boy greeting me with "Assalamu alaikum" with a big smile on his face. After that, after his introduction, in fact, the week I was staying in Cairo, I would then pass the little boy every day, and I learned to greet him. I learned to say Zayak ya Habibi, Zayak ya Gamil in the street. And he would reply to me when I say Zayak, Alhamdulillah. So this was my introduction to Islam. We must never forget that Islam is very simple. And Islam is so beautiful and gentle and sweet that it will speak to the hearts of ordinary people in the world. So we must never forget in all our conferences and all our talks the simplicity of Islam. So then after meeting the little boy, another year and a half later, I studied, I met people, I was given good example, but it takes me a long time to tell you. So lots of reading, but more important than anything, lots of good example from good Muslims. And so to finish this little phase of what we're talking about, people say to me, "Mr. Idris, what a change in your life. You used to be a priest, now you're a Muslim, you speak about Islam all over the world." They say it's as if you were traveling in one direction and then you turned completely in a different direction. But wallahi, wallah lazim, I see no turn. In fact, I would even say to people that when I was sitting in Rome studying for the priesthood, I was really training to be talking to you today. And that Allah Almighty planned from the beginning of time that I would be Muslim and that I would be talking to you today. And we need to think about it very calmly and very carefully. The last thing that we do as Muslims is react very quickly to what people do against Islam. This is one of the problems. People who want to cause trouble for Islam, they do things and we respond too quickly. I'll explain why. Before the referendum in Switzerland, there were 4 minarets in the country. So minarets were not a problem for Switzerland. But in the end, the referendum turned into a debate about Islam in Switzerland, not about minarets. And the people of Switzerland voted by 57.5% against Islam. So the first thing we must do, brother, is ask ourselves, before we think about the Swiss people, we must ask ourselves, what did we do that makes the Swiss people vote against Islam? What example did we give to the people of Switzerland that they choose Islam from all religions and say you can't worship as you wish? And we found ourselves, in this referendum, we found ourselves defending minarets when minarets are not essential in a mosque anyway. We found ourselves defending something, standing in a corner, and this is no way to speak about Islam, defending and standing in a corner. For too long, Muslims have stood in corners defending themselves. It's time for us to come out of the corners and with great pride in our hearts tell the world that Islam is perfect. So Muslims are not perfect, but Islam is perfect. As good Muslims in our own countries. That's how we can help them. Instead of pointing fingers all the time and blaming other people, we should, as Muslims living in Muslim lands, live in such a way that the mighty powers of this world look at Muslims and say, we respect that. If we live no different to anyone else, no one will take us seriously. But if we live as good Muslims, the powers of this world will sit up and say, we want to be like that. So we can help our brothers in Europe and America first of all by being good Muslims ourselves and not settling for second best. I've just come back from the United Kingdom for a 2-week tour in the United Kingdom, and I spoke in 10 universities, and I spoke to halls crowded with Muslim students, excellent Muslim students that would make Muslims in the world ashamed. So in every country there's good and bad. So of course in Britain there are some Muslims who are not living as they should, but I would hold up to the Muslim Ummah many communities in Britain that are excellent communities of Islam. I'll give you an example. For example, in the summer, every summer, I have been invited for the last 4 years to go to Scotland. And in Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland, they have a big arts festival every year. And hundreds of thousands of people come from all over the world. And they come for opera, ballet, theatre, dance, music. And Edinburgh Central Mosque, during the same time as the festival, puts on an Islam festival. And this festival is for Muslims to see, because thousands and thousands of non-Muslims come to the mosque and listen to talks about Islam. And the secret is that the Muslims in Scotland speak to the people in the language they understand. They don't stand pointing fingers at them and telling them that they're wrong. They say to them, come and look at our mosque. Come and meet us. And many people have declared Shahada, and many people have changed their minds about Islam. Is one very important other thing. I believe that this is the century of Islam in the West and America as well. Europe and America, the Muslims in the West can teach us in the Muslim lands about Islam. So working together, East and West, Islam will be very strong. You see, in the Muslim lands, sometimes we take for granted Islam, because in Ramadan we have everything. We have the adhan is called 5 times a day. We have people supporting us for iftar. Here in the Muslim lands, businesses close, work closes early. But in the West, people have to do all of these things with nothing changed. A Muslim might be the only Muslim in his business. You see, again, Muslims, sometimes they put their heads in their hands and they say, what are we going to do in Palestine? They say, where will peace come? They say, who will save us from all of this? This is shirk. As Muslims, we believe that Allah is in control. We say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There is no created thing worthy of worship but Allah alone. Not armies or governments or presidents. Allah is in control. So in Palestine, our hearts are filled with sadness because of the wicked things that are done to our brothers and sisters. But we are full of hope because Allah is in control. Victory belongs to Allah, not to this man or to that man or to that party. So when we talk about Palestine as Muslims, we should be full of hope. Now, I don't want to talk about politics, but I'll just give you one thought. I'll give you one thought that's very important. There are 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. And if those 1.3 billion Muslims acted instead of just talking, our brothers would not be tunneling under the ground like rats looking for food and water. And we would put an end to this within a week. The victory belongs to Allah.